What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to get rocking and rolling on today's morning watch list. I do appreciate you guys tuning in, and I do apologize for not posting one just the other day. Again, life's been pretty busy here for me. So I'm going to get into sharing the screen. We're going to try and run through this pretty quickly. Again, got a pretty busy morning on my hands as well. So we'll first start here with KODK. Nonetheless, this is a penny stock I'm sure a lot of people are talking about. It's already pretty much ran all the way up and hit resistance. So let me explain a little more in depth here. All right, what we're going to do is go to, I think, a daily chart, 1 year, 1 day, and I'm just going to start mapping off levels. So let me zoom in. Okay, so we're going to go to this daily chart, and you see we got a level here at 950. We're going to mark that, and then we also have a level here at 1130. We're going to mark that. Then we're going to go to the 4-hour chart, which is 180 days, 4 hours. We're going to go here, and then we're going to mark off this deviation up at there. All right, and then we're going to go back and look at the 1-minute chart. All right, now we go back and look at the 1-minute chart. You can see that daily level came in at 952, so we broke the major daily chart trend. We squeezed out to our 2 standard deviation mark on the intraday chart, and then we sold all the way back down to trend. So the way that you can kind of view this is the markets essentially went all the way up on the intraday move, squeezed over daily chart resistance, bang, hit intraday resistance, sold all the way back down to trend, okay? So again, just another way of putting it is, again, down here, that was trend, average, okay? This is over the average by 2. This is back down to the average, okay? So nonetheless, KODK right now doesn't really seem all that great to be extremely bullish on. What I could see is maybe a morning where we kind of have like a little quick spike move and then maybe it sells back down. But ultimately, I would probably be bearish on the stock for a couple reasons. 2, right? If we look at the 4-hour chart, essentially this is resistance. We came right back up, and you usually don't break resistance successfully and keep running on the first attempt. And then also, if you just kind of look at the daily chart, you can just see all those levels that we ran into. So nonetheless, KODK sort of running into some resistance, okay? We're going to go over to Tesla, and I got a story for you on this one. I went short last night, ended up losing like $800, I think like $890. And my plan was to actually hold it overnight for the overnight gap down. And so you can see Tesla went short from pretty much the highs yesterday all the way overnight. And I'll show you exactly how you can time that trade, but I'll show you exactly where I failed to manage the trade correctly. So at the time that I was planning this short, the short move was to start around here, okay? And then it squeezed me all the way up here. Now, my original plan was just to stay short 30 shares overnight, keep it pretty small, keep it simple. So I went short, and then I went out, did some stuff, and I come back, and of course I'm down a couple $100. And I'm like, well, you know, I could average up into the next resistance and then kind of make it a day trade and then go back to holding 30 shares. Well, I tried that, got squeezed, and I was okay getting squeezed, but of course, you know, the psychology of it made me think that I was wrong. So if I would have just stuck with the 30 shares, I would end up having a winning trade today. And even if I would have stuck with the 130 shares that I ended up going short on, I still would have ended up green today. But nonetheless, I failed to manage the trade properly, and it resulted in a loss. So this is the main thing about trading, is you can know pretty much what's going to happen, but if you don't actually manage the trade correctly with size, with entry, then you can still lose because your psychology is going to get all jacked up. So again, it's very important to manage risk properly, and this is a trade that I failed to manage my own risk properly, which ended up resulting in a $900 loss yesterday. All right, now if we go up to the 4-hour chart, what's going to happen, right? So yesterday, I can't remember the time. It was probably, let's go look at Tesla again. Okay, and let me put this on a full screen. I don't even know why I'm not looking full screen right now with you guys. That's pretty dumb of me. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so if we go look at Tesla, it was at about about 3 o'clock here, or 1 or whatnot, 2. And I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to go short Tesla overnight, right? I'm going to hold overnight. And the reason we did that, the reason I said that is because if you go and look at the 4-hour chart, Tesla ran straight up into our 4-hour 1 standard deviation resistance mark, okay? And for those of you that watched my most recent video about standard deviation, and the video title was this strategy will make you a consistent trader, the key point at the end of the video I said is that whenever you get to the levels for the first time, you typically just trade opposite, and then you're always going to probably have a winning trade if you manage your risk properly. So let's go through this. right? So Tesla bounces all the way up to that yellow line. So look at this is the first time the stock has reached that yellow line. Trade opposite, okay? Tesla falls all the way down to this white line. Trade opposite. Tesla goes all the way up to that green line, touches it for the first time. Trade opposite, okay? That's the whole concept. Now, doing that may not always put you into the biggest trade possible, but it's very consistent. See, the last trade that we did on Tesla was a bounce down here, and then we traded the bounce pretty much all the way up to here, and I'm still holding some Tesla right now. So I caught from basically 315 all the way to 455 by letting Tesla fall to support and trading opposite. And then the trade last night was a short trade on Tesla. As it reached that yellow line, trade opposite. Okay, we've taught you that. You should be good to go now. So for those of you that are all geeked up on Tesla, talking about this battery day, again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't really care what's going to happen. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully the stock goes up this way and blows out everyone. I don't care. But nonetheless, what I did want to point out is that you did just reach 4-hour trending resistance today. So again, the likelihood that we see a really, really big long day from Tesla is most likely not going to happen. And then for your bullish traders out there on Tesla, in the immediate time frame, what you're most likely looking for continuation on the same trending move is you're going to need the price of Tesla to get all the way back up to the 456 price, which again is that yellow trend line. And once the stock is successfully getting through that trend, then you can argue that you're going to continue that trending move up. Now, also, if you look at the daily chart, we have support down here on the daily chart at about 429. So it's also very plausible that you're going to see Tesla continue to decrease on the day all the way down to a low of even this 429 price or 430, or we pretty much already got there. I mean, we got to 433. So chances are Tesla pretty much just bounced support here this morning. So you might actually be looking at more of a dip long, but again, you're not probably going to see much more of a breakdown on Tesla unless you cross through that 329. So again, think about it, right? What did we just say? When the stock moves into that level for the first time, trade opposite. So if we were to say that on the 4-hour chart here, this is Tesla's resistance, at least right now. And then we go to the daily chart and we go, okay, where's the nearest support? And we go, oh, it's at, what do we say? 429, let's just call it 430, okay? So next nearest support is 430. So let's see what happened, okay? Tesla hits 4-hour resistance yesterday around this price and then goes up, sells off. Then it comes all the way back down to what? About 329. Well, again, it bounced at 433, but it came close to 429, right? And so trade opposite, okay? So you won't see Tesla probably break down anymore unless you're actually successfully going through the 431 price, 429 price, okay? Now what I would like to do is go touch on the SPY, all right? So for those of you that keep it up with the channel, we did have price targets down to this level, but I will also mention there was something very key that I have been forgetting to look at, and that was the Nasdaq. So for those of you that kept up with our morning watch list, you guys will know that we were expecting a potential 10% decrease in the S&P 500 or some sort of correctional move in the market. Well, since tech stocks have been the major leaders in the market, okay, and those are the ones that had kind of the more drastic sell-off recently, we did get a correction. We got a correction in the tech market, which again, if we go look at the Nasdaq, it did just that. So I was essentially doing things incorrectly on the wrong index. So if we go look at the Nasdaq and we measure the move from the all-time high to the previous low, that was a 12.35% move. So essentially we just had a correction in the Nasdaq and pretty much just had a correction on the SPY. A correction is classified as a 10% decrease. Well, we didn't get that in the S&P 500, but we did in fact get it in the Nasdaq. And why did we get it in the Nasdaq? Because the Nasdaq is more or less built up of a lot of those big tech stocks. And most of those big tech stocks are the ones that had the biggest sell-off. So again, it would make more sense for something like the Nasdaq to have the full correction that would the S&P 500. But this was something that I didn't actually think of at the time. Therefore, my analysis was incorrect on the S&P 500. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize for that one. But do note that essentially we have, right, if this is the daily chart, so we have gone from here over trend to below trend, back to trend, over trend, back to trend. We're bouncing now. So again, there is a good chance that you're going to see the markets continue higher. What I would be looking for next here, okay? look at the momentum. So this is another play that I could probably put you guys on well before it happens. Okay. So look at the RSI here on the Nasdaq. Okay, when it was at its all-time high here. Okay, it was up like say 80. Okay, whatever. 80 doesn't even matter. It was just at 80. Okay, I'm just pointing it out. But if the market does in fact bounce here, put in a new high, you're most likely going to see a bearish divergence on momentum, and then you're probably going to want to take like a short play into that new high. Okay, that's a very plausible thing that might happen, but for the time being, the markets look fairly strong, so we're not going to really be short biased at this point. We're pretty much just back to being long biased on the market off this dip, and anticipating stocks are going to continue to move higher here. Okay. So going back over to a couple hot stocks right now, I think are INO. This was a stock yesterday that started to spike up, and a lot of people are asking questions about it. Should we be long? What should we do? And I'm going to say that there's really a couple things we have to point out. You see this line here that I have on my chart? Well, we'll just delete that, and then we're going to redo this so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is 1550. Why did the stock stop there? Why did yesterday the stock run up to about 1585, 1550 and sell off? Do you think it just picked that spot by random? No, it ran there because that was your next closest trend target resistance. Ready? So we're going to go back here. We're going to look at the 4-hour chart. That's not the one. It's the daily chart then. Okay, so we go look at daily chart. Okay, and we're going to put a mark here right there at 1566. So let's do that. Mark 1566. Okay. Now we'll go look at the 1-minute chart. Let's see if somehow that has any sort of interesting, uniqueness to it. And there you go. Markets ran all the way to its next closest longer-term deviation. Mark tags it in after hours, sells off. So we know that 1585 is somewhat of a longer-term resistance point. So typically, you're not going to see a big move unless you break out of that top. Now, I know that seems like, obviously, but you wouldn't even know that 1585, 1560 was going to be resistance unless you essentially were running that same system. So for us right now, a lot of people are asking, what do we do with NIO? It's to me, it seems pretty straightforward. You're not long bias on this stock unless it's off a big sell-off and it's a dip bounce, or unless you have successfully crossed over 1585 with extreme buying volume. And let's say we do that. Let's say we cross. Your next closest level is going to be 1714 to target, and 1714, and then maybe even this 1935. Now, if you look at the chart, you're going to see there's a gap there. So there is a gap fill move that could potentially be underway. And so if the markets want to fill that gap, what they're most likely going to do is target the daily chart regression trend, which exists at 1925, and the gap fill, again, is all the way up to like 1829. So there's still possibility you got long moves coming here on INO, but again, I really think you got to be through the 1560, 1585 with strong buying volume to justify really it's going to break out. Okay. Now what I would like to do is maybe go and look at something like WKHS. This was something that I was kind of keeping an eye on. So WKHS is it's interesting. You can see that we kind of did that flag breakout and it tagged the 4-hour deviation. Look, this is the same exact thing that Tesla did, okay? It's just a different setup, but we still would have traded it the same, okay? So think about it like this. All right. WKHS breaks out, squeezes up, goes to what? The yellow line. First time it gets there, trade opposite. Winning trade. So I was on the fence of whether or not being short biased WKHS today for that reason. We kind of jumped back up to that deviation mark, and I was wondering if we're going to sell off. You know, I really can't wrap my head around it too much, so I think the best thing you could probably do if you're not already active or invested on something like this is just be neutral. You're not buying on a low point. You're already at a high point, so you're at a higher risk long entry. And it's held up fairly well here, so it's justifiably kind of iffy to be short biased too. So again, just kind of on the fence, but I did want to come out and mention that with WKHS because I know obviously many are keeping an eye on that and or watching it. Okay. Now I guess we can kind of go over and take a look at, say, something like Apple here. And so there's actually kind of a lot of things going on. All right, if you look at Apple, Apple's been kind of remaining a little bit bearish. To be honest, I'm not quite sold that Apple's fully based out yet. So we're kind of playing this one by year. Again, you guys remember me talking, we still have our trend down here at 105.90. So again, it's very plausible that we still see a decrease on Apple all the way down to 104. Not saying it's going to happen, but if in the event it does happen, that would be a pretty low risk level to consider taking some risk on, okay? Now I want to jump over, I think it was Facebook. Was it Facebook that got news about the antitrust law or something like that? Because we already know they've been manipulating vote. I mean, dude, there's so much stuff going on with big tech that it's really almost hard to keep up. And again, what I'm about to say is again, has nothing to do with bias. Again, it's just purely facts, okay? Facebook has already been known to manipulate the potential outcomes of votes for elections, okay? I can assure you, if you think what I'm telling you is inaccurate or that it's false or that it's politically biased, I promise you it isn't. Just take some time to go search. You might not want to use Google as your search engine as well. Maybe use something like DuckDuckGo or even Bing because you will get a more reliable response, okay? So use something like that and then search up, gosh, I gotta find his name and give it to you, but he used to work for Facebook, and I think he was testifying in front of Congress and said, you know, they are literally using algorithms that are potentially swaying votes in politics by hundreds and hundreds of thousands, and people don't even know what's going on. He literally quit Facebook and went and testified. So what I'm telling you, it's not false. And then also, Netflix has came out with a documentary called Social Dilemma. Now, this is something that I myself already knew was going on, but the way that they describe it in the Netflix documentary, Social Dilemma, is very, very eye-opening when you're hearing it from the experts rather than some dude that just trades stocks and then comes up with this stuff, by his own research. So make sure to check out the documentary on Netflix called Social Dilemma. It's very good, it's very eye-opening, and it's going to show you what is possible and what is currently going on inside these tech firms. So there's a lot of buzz in the market about breaking up the tech firms, breaking up Google, breaking up Facebook, antitrust laws, all sorts of things going on. And I'm not going to be the one to say that they should or should not do it, but there is a big mess going on there. And with that being said, this is why Facebook tanked overnight, and that is because the news here, come on. Facebook stock falls after report of potential for FTC antitrust law this year. So again, you can see the decrease here. Does it make sense to be long bias on this right now? Probably not as a whole. So we'll probably stay more short bias on this stock. Currently, the target on the downside could be as low as 261. 260. Let me double check this level here. That's a 266.35. How do we interact there? So we dip below it, bounced over it. 266.35 can be another breakdown point in the chart that you may not recognize. So also keep an eye at the 266.35 for any of you Facebook lovers on the day, because again, that could be a significant level that you had no idea existed. So again, just kind of keeping you guys updated there on Facebook, and it's about 8:30. Just want to come out and give you guys kind of a morning update on what's moving in the market, things that are going on. I know it's not the biggest concrete watch list, but again, if I were to show you my house right now, it looks like a hellhole. There's shit everywhere. I am moving. I only slept for 3.5 hours last night. I got to go to the city. I got to go to the city township to get all this paperwork transfer over it into my name, and then I got to get my fiance in the house through a quick claims deed, and I got to go on a vacation on the 21st, come back the 28th, get keys for the house, and I got to go back on another vacation with my dad and my brother on the 3rd. I mean, it's just literally, it's probably the craziest time period of my life. So I do appreciate you guys' support. Thank you for tuning in. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Everybody, take care.